Hello, my name is David Jalali. I am the author of the book Terrorism, the Truth, which is available on Amazon.com. I have written multiple books, but this is Terrorism, the Truth, which is related to what I'm going to talk about today. First of all, I would like to say everything that I say in my video talks is intended to promote peace, coexistence, and understanding. It's not intended for the people who are looking for violence. I do believe that um, peace can only be obtained and achieved through understanding and not force. As Einstein well says, peace is not kept by force. Peace is kept by understanding. And as Martin Luther King well said, sincere ignorance and conscious stupidity is human number one enemy. I do believe so. Therefore, my intention is to promote peace through awareness. And if the incidents that I talk about, they are only intended as an example to promote peace. So I'm going to start my talk today with the date that is January 7th, 2021. And I would like to give coronavirus status in the United States as of today. And then I talk about a couple of subjects which I have prepared for you today. Create awareness to promote peace. As of today, 21,879,798 people have been contaminated with the coronavirus. The death in America is 370,448 and recovered 13,027,453. See, America is number one in the world again, but this time in the number of death of Americans being killed as a result of negligence of the government led by Trump. America has a history of killing others, being number one killer in the world, but right now it is number one killer of its own people. Unfortunately, it's very sad, but that's what it is. Now, the issues I would like to talk about, as you all know, yesterday, the terror act that happened in Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., the attack on the Congress, by all definitions, is a terrorist act. I have spent 15 to 20 years research on terrorism, and I've written the book on Terrorism, the Truth, available on Amazon.com. Terrorism is defined by various organizations such as United Nations, FBI, and other international organizations, and even by dictionary encyclopedia, as violence against people for political aim. Based on this definition, the act that was conducted by the mob yesterday on January 6, 2021, on the legislation body of America was an attack on democracy and to create terror against people. Therefore, by definition, is a terrorist act. Now, we have terrorist act and we have terrorists. Now, we define terrorist act. The terrorists are the ones who promote this kind of activity, necessarily the ones who disseminate information about terrorism are not terrorists. I mean, sometimes for people, one will have to bring examples of what terrorist is. So they understand what acts are terrorist. It's just like when you have a lecture in college or school, university, high school, or any school, is you illustrate that through examples for the pupils to understand it better. Therefore, but the people who promote the act basically persuade or instigate these kind of acts of terror. They are terrorists. Now, who is the terrorist who conducted this act? You know, Trump, President of United States, has been against all odds, all facts, without any support, has been claiming um, fraud in U.S. elections for the past couple of months, has been fueling the fire. Actually, have been inviting these people to come to Washington, have been lecturing for them to go to the Congress, Senate, and demand, you know. And he said he would go with them, but he didn't go. He went back to his bunker. He just sends other people to get him. And these people were emotional. They believe this guy who is proven to be a liar. And according to his directions, they basically attacked Congress, and four people have died so far. And who knows if people who are injured in the hospital, whether they survive or not. See, this is terrorism, persuading terrorism. So Trump is terrorist according to this. Now, one other thing you notice that the same thing that happened in Capitol Hill yesterday is the same strategy that the Congress of United States and the Senate of United States for the past 100 years or 70, 80 years since World War II has been legislating, has been approving, have been funding to cause to happen in other countries, other independent countries. You know, as you see, for example, right now, see Venezuela. Just as past couple of years, you see Pompeo goes around and they have elected, United States has elected an individual to be president of Venezuela, and then it is funding riots, covert operations to topple the people of the government who the people of Venezuela have elected internally, to substitute that with the one that is funded and elected by United States Congress and Senate. You know, there is a saying says, hypocrite is the one who blame other guy for the same crime, Jesus. You know, these people who sit in Congress and they were looking for a hole to hide in yesterday, they are the same ones who sit there and vote because they get money from these special interests, sell arms by creating wars, and fund terrorism, like in Middle East, you know, by funding, approving arms to be sold to Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemenis, or that pass it through to ISIS, or in past laws approve invasion of Iraq to create terrorism in Iraq, which, you know, ISIS and Al-Nusra, all of those, or approve invasion of Afghanistan on the excuse of catching one terrorist who attacked 9/11, and that terrorist happened to be trained by CIA, like bin Laden, you know, Hillary Clinton. I have a video on my channel. You can listen to Hillary, Trump, you know, General Wesley Clark, uh, NATO commander, Michael Schur of CIA, Bin Laden team head. They all say that these terrorist groups like Taliban, who Bin Laden was associated with, and the 19 terrorists that attacked 9/11, 15 of them were from Saudi Arabia, two from Jordan, two from Egypt, all US allies. Congress passes and approves invasion of Afghanistan for a terrorist who is not even from Afghanistan. He's from Saudi Arabia, the US allies, and Trump's friend. And then bombs Syria, wants to topple government in Syria. Now, see, now what we saw yesterday, I do not approve of anything like that. I do not approve of violence. I do believe, and it is a fact, that violence comes from weakness. It's not come from strength. Strength comes from wisdom. But if one sits and legislates and fund terrorism or coups in different countries to topple democratically elected governments like 1953 Iran, Guatemala, Egypt, 1973 Chile, 19 oh 05 Nicaragua, or 1960s in Central America, South America, and in Middle East in 1971, for example, UAE, and 95 in Qatar, and Egypt 2015. These, if you study these coup d'etats, I have, and I have identified close to 50 democratically elected government which have been toppled around the world by the approval of the funding from the Congress and Senate and the CIA and United States government to install a puppet dictator like a journalist, butcher, Saudi Arabia, MBS, and the racist apartheid Zionist regime of Israel in the Middle East, and killing and massacring Palestinians and the millions of people in West Asia. And look at the Vietnam. How many thousands of us American soldiers, American kids got killed. These were all been approved, funded by the United States government with the most of them with the approval of Congress and senators and the state. The same thing they say, what chickens have come home to roost, as Malcolm X well said. What America has been promoting, American government, when we name a country has three parts. It has people, it has geographic location, and the government. I'm referring to the government when I name a country. So when I say America, means American government. And not all of them, but majority, because if a policy gets approved and gets executed, that means the majority in the government go along with it or approve it. So I'm talking about the majority that approve these heinous crimes against the world, humanity. We killed millions of people around the world, and all under the false claim of democracy, human rights, and freedom. So the same thing America have been unleashing on the world for the past 178 years is come home to roost, and now is unleashed on the Congress. We saw an example yesterday. Of course, at the end of when I finish giving you the examples, so you understand the subject better, I will give you solution too. I am saying everything I say to promote peace, because as Einstein well said, peace is achieved through understanding. In order to understand this subject, we have to have examples, we have to explain that, understand it, and then keep the peace by understanding, not by force, because force only brings force. You saw United States goes and topple a democratically elected government in Iran 1953, says we wanted to avoid communism, and promote peace. But first of all, nobody asked the question, what is the business of United States to be on the other side of the planet, toppling a democratically elected government by a nation to replace it with government of its choosing to avoid communism. Maybe even if those people want to be communist in a free world, people should be free to elect what they want. It means that you respect democracy. Once you respect democracy, you don't make attack on democratic parliament, like in Iranian parliament were attacked. Iranian prime minister's home were attacked the same way that was attacked yesterday on in Capitol Hill in Washington. That was almost 60 years ago, 67 years ago. And many other, there are about 50 instances like that. I'm just giving you one example. But if you read my book or you do a research, I'm sure you find ample examples. There is a book called All the Shah's Men by Stephen Kinzer that explains this kind of coup d'etat. There is a book by Stephen Kinzer, it's called Overthrow, which identifies all these coup d'etats. My book, I have briefly referred to them too. So my intention is to give awareness to promote peace. So I'm giving you these examples. So American government, with the approval of the Congress and the Senate, has been doing the same thing that happened to the Congress yesterday to at least 50 countries that I know of since World War II. Maybe there is more. To topple democratic elected government, to replace a puppet dictator, a cruel like Pinochet in Chile, who killed millions of people, or even Saddam Hussein, back in 70s, U.S. support CIA helped him come to power in back in 79, and then with the excuse of overthrowing him, invaded Iraq. Taliban in Afghanistan was brought to power with the funding of the Congress and the United States government, and then it was used as a pretext. Bin Laden was trained by CIA as part of Taliban to invade Afghanistan and kill millions of people, and same thing in Syria right now. All to protect racism, which is example is racist apartheid Zionist of Israel, who believes that you have to gather people based on one religion, Judaism. That's what it says, but they're not even Jews because Jews don't behave like that. From my reading of the Jewish book, um, Torah, Torah says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. But you telling me Israelis love their neighbors? So if they were Jews, they would love neighbors. They wouldn't first come and demolish somebody's home who lived there thousands of years ago, have been living there for thousands of years, to replace it with somebody from Europe, America, or Russia, bring them in there based because he or she is a Jew, get the land of somebody, the home of somebody who lived there for thousands of years, make a refugee out of him or kill him and rape their kids and give their home to a Jewish and give them money of American taxpayers, like 4 billion a year directly and 6 billion indirectly, like over $10 billion a year goes to Israel to support this kind of behavior, which is racism, ethnic cleansing. The same thing America did to the Indians. So you see, America commits all these crimes in the West Asia to support that kind of a regime and says that's a democracy. See, that's the biggest lie you could be. There's nothing further from the truth. A democratic nation does not treat the habitant of that nation like Palestinians who lived there thousands of years before these immigrants come from Europe. United States supports the immigrants from Europe to that land, gives them arms to kill the inhabitants of that land, and build a government based on what religion is racist, apartheid government. And then United States helps, gives Saudi Arabia $70 billion arms to support a king who butchers journalists in its embassy, like in Turkey, Ankara, Khashoggi, because that journalist just wished they had elections in Saudi Arabia like they we have in United States. United States support that kind of dictatorship, has never had any election, does not let people to vote. The woman cannot even drive. On all of these, under the false claim of democracy and human rights, legislated by the same Congress, legislative body who was under attack of terrorist attack yesterday, and funded by the same people who were under attack yesterday. So you see how that goes? If Jesus says, or Christianity says, do unto others as you expect them to do unto you. Now, you see that is the fact that this thing makes sense. So United States Congress and Senate has been doing this to the world, mostly third world country to Asia, for the past 70, 80 years, as well documented. And now chickens are coming to roost at home. This thing is backfiring. This is a blowback to what US has been doing around the world past few years. And caused by the representative, the president of United States, Trump. The same definition that's used by 8 FBI to identify terrorists and terrorist acts. It happened yesterday. Attack on Capitol Hill is a terrorist act, and the terrorist is Trump, the president of America. Now, when it comes to laws in America, if the terrorists are being sent to Guantanamo Bay, maybe it's time to do what you preach and send Trump to Guantanamo Bay. Isn't that where the terrorists were sent? So why it's still, this is racism again, because it's Trump, he won't go to Guantanamo Bay. But if somebody from Afghanistan is fighting for his home because it's invaded by United States, they call him terrorist and they send him to Guantanamo Bay. You see the hypocrisy here? Hypocrite is the one who only blamed the other guy for the same crime. Peace, true understanding. We have to understand. I'll give you a solution to all of these. But the same Congress now it tasted a dose of its medicine yesterday. Medicine that have been prescribing for the world under the false claim of democracy, human rights, and freedom. What happened yesterday was a terrorist act. I'm not condoning it. It is wrong. It's terrorist, and it should not have been happen. But it happens because of ignorance. The ignorance is dark. Ignorance are the part of the United States government, the legislators, and the demonstrators. See, if you live by the sword, that's the old saying, you die by the sword. You live by promoting terror around the world, to topple democratically elected government, to replace them by your choosing dictators and racist governments like Saudi Arabia and Israel, Netanyahu. And Trump considered them his allies, United States government. As Eisenhower well said, you are who you associate with. You are who you associate with. Trump has been hanging out with MBS, Saudi Arabia prince, the journalist butcher, has been hanging around with Netanyahu, the racist apartheid Zionist, UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed, who is a dictator kneecapping. He kneecaps people just because they don't listen to him. He lays people on the sands in the beach, and with the SUV, Land Cruiser goes over their legs. Those slaves that come to work for them from all over the world, if they don't listen, punish people like that. MBS beheads them with the sword, same way ISIS does. And those are Trump's friends and his son-in-law Kushner's who his dad is a gangster. Trump himself is a gangster. I mean, go read their history of their life, see if they're not, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Trump basically within the past 3.5 years has paid his son-in-law and his daughter more than $617 million. Kushner made a company to do Trump's campaign, through campaign, to get paid. 670, and they just bought a $30 million house in Florida, whereas typical American to get $600, the same Congress and Trump are fighting for 6 months, for 9 months to approve $600 payment to a typical American. But they approve legislatures and laws to use Americans, taxpayers' money to pay their relatives like Kushner's, and Ivanka $617 million, and fund coup d'etats around the world, like give Israel almost $10 billion a year, for 3.7 billion exact directly, and then indirectly another 5 or 6 billion dollars, and then spend almost $1 trillion on a military budget. It's 740 billion, but there are about a couple hundred billion supplements, and spend almost $76 billion making bigger atomic bombs to protect what? To protect the same people who legislate these criminal acts, the ruling class. What we saw yesterday was the fight among the ruling class, as you know this. But only the people who attacked those ignorants who committed the terrorist crime yesterday, those are ignorant, stupid soldiers, the same ones who go into Afghanistan thinking they are defending America. But America, they don't know American borders are Mexico, Canada, Atlantic Ocean, and Pacific. They don't ask themselves, what am I doing in Afghanistan protecting America? It's not protecting them. You're protecting the interests of the same people who have a disagreement about them, the ruling class, as you saw yesterday. But soldiers are being treated like the same people who attacked the Congress, and four of them got killed. And bunch of them probably go to jail, and their life gets ruined because they are ignorant. If they were not ignorant, they wouldn't become the tools of Trump. They wouldn't listen to Trump to make this attack. When you attack Congress, do you think you're attacking to benefit for yourself? No, what you're doing, you're trying to serve Trump's agenda. And Trump's agenda is to pay $617 million to his daughter, his son-in-law, to go buy a $30 million house, but typical American can't even get $600. And he's starving. 30 million kids don't have food to eat. Look at the long line for food. Can you imagine in the richest country in the world, we have long lines, hours people stay in the line just get food to eat? And we have like millions of people homeless, millions hungry, tens of thousands of people die every day in America right now because of crime and coronavirus combined. And right now, exactly as we talk about, 3,500 to 4,000 people a day in America, while the ruling class is fighting over keeping power and ripping the taxpayers, rather than trying to get this vaccine to Americans quickly and save lives. See, they get our taxes and then let us die because they don't have time to take care of us, the government. They are fighting who gets more power, who can get a chance to empty the treasure and collect wealth for itself. So the ones who listen to Trump and commit the terrorist act like yesterday, they are fools too. So I'm talking for them. Don't think you're fighting for yourself. You only will fight for yourself if you calm down through peace. When there is a peace in this country, when there is peace in the country, you can work, you can make a living, you can feed your family, you have security yourself, your life won't get screwed. But if you listen to Trump or people like Trump, these politicians who are crooks, liars, to get you rattled up, to attack so they can benefit, You're only going to screw up your own life, and they're going to pocket the money, the benefits. So you have to be smart. Do not commit violence, because violence never pays. Violence only screws up your own life. Trump has his own barricade. He goes to his bunker right away. Congress went to the bunker, but four people, ordinary poor people, died. Who probably those people are emotional. They were not thinking right. If they were thinking right, they wouldn't attack they wouldn't commit violence anyway, attack the Congress. So that is what I'm saying. So, but the solution is not attacking the Congress or the Capitol. It's not to commit violence. Solution is uh, to be peaceful. If you demonstrate peacefully, then go home, and next time be careful who you vote for. Do not listen to people who rattle you up, tell us our election is stolen. See, election in America cannot be stolen the way the system is. If you study, I'm a researcher. I've been in university studying. I'm over 6 years old. I'm retired past 20 years. That's all I've been doing. Some days I spend anywhere 4 to 8 hours to study, read on the internet. I collect information to write a book. I still read the various sources. And I've been academic all of my life. I've been self-employed, but one leg working, one leg in school, learning. I can tell you, I have been also volunteer as a poll at the poll places. I've been there. What happens is uh, elections in America, it cannot be rigged. You know why? Because every city, every area, as you know, there are volunteers to go there, poll watchers there are volunteers. The people bring their vote, they vote, and even if they vote through mail, they cannot double vote. Even Trump was saying, go vote again. See, he's trying to stir up problem in the country. There is an old saying says, smart enemy is better than a stupid friend. Trump is a stupid friend, even if you consider him a friend. He's evil. He's a terrorist because he says go vote by mail and go vote in person. But if you go by person, you don't have your ballot with you that is mailed to you. You already sent it in. They're going to give you a provisional. They're not going to count that provisional until it's checked out that you haven't mailed your ballot in, hasn't been received. So you won't be able to vote twice, first of all. Second, the poll watchers are ordinary citizens. When these votes are accumulated, they're counted. Every county certifies it, then send it to the state. A state secretary of state counted. People they certified that they count. If there is irregularity, it's going to be addressed, and once the state certifies it, then it goes to the for the country, gather the numbers. So, and then they go to the Congress to certify. See, there is a process. So there is nobody here who is going to be able to cheat and rig anything. If anybody mails or votes by mail, they have the right to vote by any means they possible. If it's by mail, so what? Trump says do not count the ones that or voted by mail. See, he is trying to prevent the right from a portion of the population from the right to vote so he can be elected. So it means he's the one at the wrong place. If he was really legitimate Trump, he would make it easy for everybody to vote. That is a representative government. But Trump is not like that. He's a terrorist because he's been hanging out with dictators and racists, as I told you. Racist apartheid Zionist Netanyahu, and then journalist butcher MBS, Saudi Arabia and UAE and Bahrain, all of those. Those countries, people do not have rights to vote, do not have even some right to drive. There have never been any election. They came with the coup d'etat, the same coup d'etats that was legislated, funded by the same Congress who was under attack yesterday, and executed by CIA and United States government. And now it's being supported by the same Congress from United States government. See, is a circle. They say what goes around comes around. So what is the solution? Now I want to get to the solution. The solution is that we have to realize that, as Martin Luther King well said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So if the United States Congress, if we want to solve this problem in America, because these chickens have come to roost in United States, and this is going to become dangerous, and it's going to be harmful to us. In order to be able to solve this problem and prevent this terrorism from spreading around the country, in the world, and make our country safer. See, I live in America. I love America. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, and we have a lot of good things here. If we want to preserve that, we are losing it, unfortunately. There are Americans unemployed, there are Americans hungry, there are diseases, the people are dying. When this goes on and becomes on, terrorism is increasing, our environment, our cities become unsafe. We cannot function anymore. Our families being endangered and ourselves being endangered, and people get killed, as we saw yesterday. In order to prevent this terrorism and this violence, we need to do the following, I suggest. One, stop funding covert operation and terrorism acts in other countries. Like, for example, in Venezuela, Iran. Stop supporting racist apartheid, Zionism, and puppet dictatorship, journalist butcher dictatorships. Let those countries have elections too, if they want, to elect their own representatives, and then we do business with them. It's more stable and we will be safer, because if we keep shoving down their throat a racist apartheid Zionist regime government, or a journalist butcher puppet dictator like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Emirates, because those people in those countries, in Syria, in Libya, in Lebanon, they want to have their own governments. Like in Yemen, U.S. giving arms to Saudi Arabia, they're bombing Yemenis for 5 years, killing tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people, just because they want to have elections in their own country. But if they have election in Yemen, then Saudi Arabia will have to have election with Emirates and Bahrain. And those countries, they don't want democracy seeds to be planted in the Arabian Peninsula, because it's not to the interest of the Trump, the terrorist Trump. It is to the interest of majority of Americans, because Americans, from a healthy relationship with those countries, with the representative government of those countries, Americans would be safer. Their taxes will not be used to support racist apartheid Zionist regimes who kills women and babies by demolishing their homes and replacing it with based on religion. And it won't be supporting a dictatorship in Saudi Arabia and terrorist acts in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Therefore, Americans won't have as many enemies anymore. And their tax money, rather than be spending in billions of dollars in to blowing up places around the world and supporting dictators and racist regimes, that tax money would be spent in America on healthcare, on education, on infrastructure, and America will not turn into a third world country. America would be a better place for all of us to live, not just individuals like Trump and his surrounding a few people by fooling the majority to go get killed and fight for them so they can increase their wealth at the despair and death and destruction of majority. The majority needs to wise up. That's what I'm telling you, Buddhist. I'm trying to increase understanding, to have peace, to promote peace through understanding, through awareness, because ignorance is dark, as Shakespeare well said. You understand? Einstein says one more thing: there are two infinites, universe and human stupidity. I am not sure about the universe. Means he's sure about human. See, it is true, because if the people were not really majority stupid, they're not unlimited, they wouldn't attack Capitol Hill yesterday. They wouldn't commit terrorism. They wouldn't commit violence. because violence only brings violence. It's a few of them got killed, and now some of them their life gonna go ruin, jail, and all those what's happening. They would, if they were smart, they wouldn't listen to Trump to commit terrorism because they know Trump better. They would study that Trump doesn't give a shit for anybody except himself. He's using people as a pawn to get killed, to get hurt, so he can keep draining the treasury and support his racist friends and his dictator friends. So they can rip off their own people too. So a ruling class, a few minority, use the majority of ignorant to serve them to reach their evil intentions, increasing their wealth and their power. See, that is what is happening. So how we can solve this again? As I said to you, we should stop, demand our politicians do not support racist apartheid Zionism. Do not send our billions of dollars to Israel. Do not support Saudi government with butchers journalists. Let the Saudi regime in Saudi Arabia deal with elections. Help Saudi Arabia, if anything, tell them America will not have a relationship with the dictators unless they have elections in their country and the people vote. And if they stay in the power, people vote them in the power, be in the power, then deal with them. Then America can live in peace like in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Oman, Qatar, UAE. Some of them governments may be okay, people vote them to stay in. Well, fine, at least they're legitimate. And in the Israel, all those people who've been forced out since the immigrants started coming to Israel, they should be allowed either to come back or be compensated money for their damages, and the people who are born in Palestine, Israel, with the Jews who have been born there, with the Christians who have been born there, with the Muslims who have been born there, or the atheists who have been born there, it doesn't matter what the religion is. Those people are given equal right to elect their own government, write their own constitution, and have a government who is not a racist government. And then United States doesn't need to pay money to keep that government in power. That government can tax his own people, stay in power, become legitimate. Then financial burden would be lifted from United States government, and the funds of the taxpayers' money in America will be used for the interest and benefit of American people rather than committing crimes, terrorism, and supporting dictators and racist governments around the world in the name of democracy, human rights, and freedom. Because that's exactly what America has been doing up to now since World War II. It's exactly what happened yesterday uh, attack on Congress. America has been funding these around the world. Now it got the dose of its own medicine. So to have peace, prosperity, coexistence, and better life for all Americans inside America, we need to promote peace. To promote peace by not supporting dictatorship and racism around the world, like Pompeo is doing. It goes, the United States, Pompeo and Trump, they think of American people are fools. They think as to they underestimate the intelligent people. They go bring a couple of puppet dictators like Emirates and, for example, Bahrain, which are peoples are revolting constantly, but United States give the government arm is a coup d'etat governments, both of them, and they put their people under their thumb, the pressure to keep them. They kill them anybody who criticize them, or Saudi Arabia. They bring a couple of those with a racist regime of Israel who's not representing really all these people there too, and then sit them at a table and they have peace. And these people never had wars because they were one of them. Some of them are dictators who are oppressing their people. One of them is a racist oppressing their people, and they are not fighting. They are both all puppets of the United States, funded and legislated by the same Congress who was under attack yesterday. See, and they show that there is no peace because the fight is between Israel and his own people. I mean, Palestine, his own people in Palestine, between the immigrants who came from Europe and formed a racist government based on race that's funded by United States and armed by United States against the natives in those countries, the Palestinians, the people who live in the same land. Is among them the war. It's not among Israel and UAE and Bahrain, but they try to fool the people by these games. These games need to stop. People need to wake up rather than create violence, because violence will fail. Violence will give them an excuse to kill you, to put you in jail, to label you as terrorism. You need to calm down and go to read a little bit more and then find out legally what we can do. Currently, the solution right now within the next 2 weeks is dangerous for Trump to stay in the power. We should use United States Constitution Amendment 25th Amendment, which gives the executive branch, the vice president, to claim the president incompetent and dangerous for the country because he's dangerous. You got a crazy man, Dr. Loveless, fingers on an atomic bomb on the red button. But he pushed the atom. He has the atomic bomb codes. He pushed that code. He can blow up half of the world or the whole world. You have that right now in the White House in the power, and that's dangerous for all of us. The executive branch responsibility. Mike Pence. Mike Pence is a smart man. I like him. He's a Republican, but he's a smart. He's more trustable than Trump and more stable than Trump. He should save America. Everybody is looking for him. Him and his executive branch should announce Trump as a terrorist and an unstable person. And if Trump challenges that, then the process is for that to be brought to the Senate and the Congress. And by two-thirds of the representatives should vote for Trump to be announced incompetent and not um, able to serve as a president anymore. Dangerous to them, America. Currently, as we talk right now, today, January 7, 2021, we got 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, Trump could ruin America worse than what is done to America past few years. And is the most dangerous terrorist threat to America is Trump, this president. And Mike Pence can save America and save everybody. And then he will be guaranteed his presidency for the next term, 4 years from now. So it's in Mike Pence's ball is in his court and his executive branch. He should head with these people, announce Trump incompetent. Trump challenges it, come to the Congress, and then Congress has a duty to vote him out of the office, basically, two-thirds. So to save America right now, because for the next 2 weeks, we are at the mercy of a crazy person who is mentally unstable, as shown, and we proven is terrorist, and he got his hand on the red bottom with the nuclear code. Imagine that for a second. Okay, I hope we all be saved. Nothing would happen, and we need to realize that violence is not the solution. Violence is the problem. We should refrain from violence. Use our intelligence. Think about it. Use our laws that we have. Uh, actually disable Trump by using the 25th Amendment of the US Constitution, as I explained. And that way, he won't have the power to hurt America anymore. Best wishes God for you guys. Stay away from coronavirus. Be healthy, please. Be peaceful. And God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much. Bye.